a new day, and summer's here. It's time for us to hit the road and face our fears. In the car now, we'll make it somehow. Take a giant step toward dangers from below.
Hey, this is Russ Payton with Roleplaying Public Radio. This is RPPR episode 99, Gaming with a Full Table. And with me, as always, is Mr. Tom George. How are you, Tom?
You know, Ross, I enjoyed your announcer voice today.
Oh, wow.
It was good. You know what?
It's been a while.
Touched me in here.
Oh, yeah?
And I'm touching my chest, by the way.
Yeah.
You can't see that.
You don't have a heart condition.
That's true.
You don't have any heartworms or anything? Or
No.
parasites. Yeah. All right. So
No, because
genuine emotion.
yeah, I just came back from New York City, and that city, unlike a lot of people, puts me in a calm, happy mood.
All right. That's
To the
'cause
point
you don't
that
have to live there.
Well, obviously I left,
Yeah.
but yes, I came back, and your voice didn't bother me. It actually was good. It was good.
All right. I'm.
That's for you.
Yeah. Okay. I appreciate it. I'm sure the listeners back at home do too.
Or either that, or they're screaming, "Why is everything upside down?"
Yes. Well, I'm sure we'll hear about it in the comments. So anyway, this episode is going to be talking about two topics that have recently hit up: gaming with a full table, gaming with large groups, and also gaming with new players. We've found some new people in the Springfield area to join the RPPR crew, posse, whatever.
Our numbers are growing, man.
Yes.
Soon we will be a franchise.
Yeah, sure. So, introducing them into the glory that is the role playing game hobby, their experiences.
Hobby, lifestyle, Ross.
Okay, all right. So that experiences may vary. So
Yeah, and worldviews may vary.
yes, there we go. But first off, some news. In case you haven't been on the RPPR site recently, I also went on a trip. I went to PAX East in Boston a couple weeks ago, and I was there as part of my job. I work for Pixelscopic, and I am a level designer for their video game Delver's Drop, which is an action RPG with roguelike elements.
You should totally buy it when it comes out.
Pre-order it. You can pre-order it now and get a playable alpha of the game. It's only $15. Dylan Ross sent you. Anyway, so I was there helping them out with their booth, promoting the game. But I also had some free time, so I went around and recorded some panels of
Played some games.
Yeah, I played Hotline Miami 2. It was pretty nice. It was very good. It's basically Hotline Miami with more.
But you know what? When you say I fail to see the downside,
I know exactly.
it's more Hotline Miami.
I exactly. And what else did I play? I play Darkest Dungeon, which I'll talk about a little in the shoutouts. A Lovecraftian themed dungeon crawling turn-based RPG. But I recorded these panels, one on board game design and crowdfunding, two on RPGs, and including industry luminaries, there's Ryan Dancing, Mike Merles, and Luke Crane. And so you can take a listen to those, and they've already generated a lot of discussion, both on our site and on Ian World and RPG.net about some of the controversial comments made by some of these luminaries.
Ooh, controversy.
Yes, so which is what the RPG industry needs.
It's what keeps the world going around.
Yes, clearly that is.
Besides money.
Yes, clearly.
Yes.
So anyway, we are also proud to announce that Caleb's adventure for Eclipse Phase, The Devotees, is now out. You can
go Caleb!
Yes,
yeah.
You can buy the PDF. You can buy it or buy print-on-demand version of it. It is a rather complex adventure dealing with the 9 Lives criminal syndicate.
They're happy people.
Yes, we have a playtest of it on our actual play site, which I will link to in the show notes.
So dark.
Yes, so you can check out his writing, and it is.
It's one of those games like I'm not playing with you guys anymore.
Yeah, it got very grimdark.
It did.
Weird. So in other big news, I finally have a title for my architectural horror game, which will be the next big Kickstarter.
Oh no
project.
way!
Yes, it will be called Ruin, and it will be about being trapped in non-Euclidean ruins and scary cities and other architecturally scary places. So if you've been listening to our actual plays, things like July Park, Journey to the City, The Night Clerk, and all those other scary games, very Carcosa-ish. Although it's not totally just Carcosa. I have a whole thing, and it'll be cool. And so anyways, I've done the first playtest. There'll be some new game mechanics.
And monarchs in certain colors?
Maybe. I'm still writing it.
Oh.
So there's already one playtest I've done with Caleb and Aaron, which we'll talk about in the anecdotes. And I have new game mechanics for the Gumshoe system. Basically, character generation that happens during gameplay, which is playing out actually pretty well so far. But so I'm working on that. So the Kickstarter, you can expect it later this year. Hopefully in a couple months. Need to get artwork. Need to write a shitload. So yay!
So is a shitload more than a fuckload?
Yes, but don't worry. For Base Raider fans, I am still working on Base Raiders. The new PDFs are going to be coming out soon. Of player-facing supplements like a new player character pre-gen, also new power supplements or like new power sources. So you can have some fun with that. So more stuff.
The power of air
and
conditioning.
more adventures bases are being created by other writers. So we also have a new recorder for the actual plays. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but we have the Zoom H2N, which stands for
It's a NIFT. Or N for nifty.
Yes,
because it is.
And then we're recording in a lossless format in a WAV file that it then is instead of recording straight to MP3. So it is higher quality, and I'm doing more to massage the audio before I put it down into an MP3.
Forgive me, I got distracted. Mifune had movement.
Yes, lizards do occasionally move.
It's amazing.
It is. You can expect higher quality APs that we record from now on. I mean, we still have some that record with the old Zoom, as good as it was, that will be still slightly lower quality. But anyway, so those of you who are audiophiles, and anyways, and Tom, speaking of
I actually have some news of my own.
Yes,
I have been. I've been requested to run a Pathfinder campaign for a completely different group of gamers.
Ooh.
Yeah, apparently, some of them are other friends of mine.
Yeah,
who said, "Hey, their friends like, we really like to do a role playing game, but no one wants to run anything." So they're asked, "Does anyone know anyone that would run stuff for us?" And my name was put forward. So I was requested to run that. So I will be running and recording the episodes. I'll be running a Pathfinder campaign for a group of players you've never seen or heard before.
Yes.
It's gonna be trippy.
Yes. So when we get story arc completed for that,
the first game should be this Sunday.
Ooh.
Well, from the day we're recording this.
Yes, a week. Yeah, we were recording on a Sunday right now.
So it'll be a week from today.
Yes.
In the year 2525.
That is how time works. So
it keeps on slipping into the future.
Yes, Tom. So that's good.
Your news is all right, whatever.
Well, I mean, we did all those Pathfinder games last time, and the only reason I haven't posted those APs, I know we mentioned them on the anecdotes before, so you get some of you.
But one of the players couldn't come anymore.
Well, and also we didn't have like a resolution.
So we didn't have a resolution.
The campaign just kind of drifted off, and that's kind of
as sometimes happens.
Yes, and so that's my biggest pet peeve when doing APs, and that's why a lot of these games in the B-sides are just kind of like...
Here they are.
Yeah, here they are. Well, the next batch of B-sides will have a lot of that, like Mutants of Mastermind campaigns.
Oh, God.
Oh, yes.
God.
Oh, yes, Tom.
Ross, you son of a bitch.
I know. I'm truly a monster.
I thought we talked about this.
Yeah, we did. I didn't care.
But nothing was resolved.
No. So anyways...
we're like Congress.
Wow.
Whoa. Yeah.
I feel insulted. You take that back.
Eat that.
No. You eat that.
How's that taste? Swish that around your mouth. How's it taste?
No. I reject your reality and replace it with my own.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. Anyway, game with the full table. So
I know we might have talked about this a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, this is sort of an ongoing thing, talking about table. This is just sort of a potpourri of gaming etiquette.
But sometimes then we also get new experiences we like to share about it.
So a lot of you know Bill as one of the regulars.
We like Bill.
Plays. he has formed his own group of some of his friends and his wife, and he is introducing them to the hobby. And so his wife Melissa, and then his two friends Sean and Ann, and he invited me, and so we've been playing some games of D&D next. So they've played some D&D, but that's about it. So this weekend we had two opportunities to play. Tom came back from his trip, and we had two opportunities to play. So on Friday night, we got together and play. We were originally going to just play a board game, but we changed somewhat.
Things changed.
Yeah, so it switched to Fiasco.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and I did record it. I didn't know I was going to record it, but that's why I have the recording app on my cell phone, so I can record.
Ross is ready always.
Yes. So
if a game is played, Ross will be there.
Well, no, I would never get anything done, but any game that I am there at, I will be able to record.
That's what I meant. Right? He's always ready to record.
There we go.
So watch what you say around him.
I know, weird, right?
He might blackmail you.
Yes. So the game was an hour and a half. We used the Town and Gown, whatever they call playset or whatever.
I was a very poor communist. I apologize.
You were the worst Marxist revolutionary.
Neophyte. Well, neophyte was the key.
Yeah,
I'm totally beginner.
Yeah. So we may or may not post the AP for that. I mean, it's an hour and a half, so that's really short by our standards. But it was quite entertaining. But this was Sean. Sean was the only of the new players who played it. Dan was in there and Bill was there, and then us. So that was 5. So Sean got into it. I mean, he had been doing some role playing in it, and so it was a pretty standard game of Fiasco. Everything went horribly wrong.
It was a fiasco.
Everyone picked up on the rules. I mean, Bill's really good about remembering the rules. Like he
does seem to have an eidetic memory for that.
And he knows how, especially Fiasco. So he knows how it works, and he has like the cards laminated and all the other shit. So it worked really well, and. So I mean that was pretty average, but then that was not much to learn there. But I think on Saturday we had an opportunity hey, do you want to run a game for us, Ross? I'm like, all right, I'll run a game. And so there I sketched out a Call of Cthulhu game. I've had the concept for a while, but it wasn't. But the putting it to a particular locality didn't come to me until that day, and I was like, oh, well, I should have done that earlier. So the game itself is set in 1929 York, Pennsylvania. The historians will know that the aftermath of the Pennsylvania Dutch hex murders, which comes into it a little bit. So folk magic, the grimoire, a long lost friend. I actually have a copy of it, and I use that as a prop in the game. And so I also had a full table, 6 full players. Bill and Melissa, Tom, Aaron, and then Sean and Ann. Mm-hmm. And so 3 of them Melissa, Sean, and Ann had never played Call of Cthulhu at all. And I didn't make pre-gens. I had them make characters.
Yeah. And actually for first-timers, it went very smoothly.
Yeah. I had 2 copies of the book, which definitely helped. Mm-hmm. And
I've memorized character creation rules for that game.
Yeah, so you didn't need one. And I was able to explain certain things. And Call of Cthulhu itself, I think, is a really good system to introduce new people because conceptually, it's not hard to admit you're a person. You don't have weird superpowers. You don't have anything. I know I mentioned this before, but like you're a detective. You can you can investigate crimes. You don't have superpowers. Like a lot of games, there's a big leap in conceptually understanding what your character can do.
True.
Like Exalted is fucking terrible.
Oh my god, yeah, I've played a game of that, and I'm like, wow, it's a good thing I've been role playing since 1987 because holy crap.
But I mean, there's like a lot of games aren't. I mean, most games are pretty. When your characters have more than human powers, are actually pretty bad about explaining what your character can do. But like Call of Cthulhu, you're just a person. You know some things, but you don't. Bullets still kill you. You're still bound by the law. You get afraid. Yeah, you can get afraid. You can go crazy. So aside, the mental stuff is still like developing schizophrenia as a result of seeing a scary monster makes no fucking sense. But like a horror movie convention, that's fine. So, anyways, so the setup was pretty easy, I think. There was, I don't know, what your first impressions of the players?
Well, first of all, I think you did the right thing by just dropping us right into the middle of it.
Okay, so after character. So the character
generation. Generation.
I mean, when you were watching, did you pay any attention to them? And like,
I did, and I think they had a lot of questions, but they were all like questions I would imagine a new player would do. They also had, and all three of them had immediate help to either of their sides by players who are very familiar with the system.
Yeah.
So there wasn't just one person. It wasn't just like the GM is the only one who knows the answer to their questions.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've been in games like that where it's a new system and every one of them is asking the GM questions at the same time.
Yeah.
No, we had multiple sources of information. I think it went smoothly. We discussed our character concepts beforehand.
Yeah.
So we kind of had we kind of had all the skill sets covered. We had the intellectual covered. We had the brawling covered.
Yeah.
So I think even for 50% inexperienced players, character creation went very smoothly.
I think I did, as a GM, I did see some problem. And I don't want to name any names, but in a group, everyone has a different sort of personality and different kind of at the table. And there are loud players, and then there are like active players, and they're more recessive players. And by recessive, I mean they kind of pull back in a loud crowd situation. I don't want to say introvert, extrovert, because we're all gamers. We're all more or less introverts. So more or less. Yeah,
the gaming table.
Not everyone is. I mean, David, for example, is not an introvert at all. So,
no, but most of us, this is the one place we feel comfortable doing all this.
So there were some players, especially during character generation, that got in table side conversations that actually made it hard for me to hear and then answer.
Well, I think that wasn't just character creation. That happened during the game as well.
Early on, I think the thing is we got into a rhythm of it, but especially during the character, I actually had to kind of like tell certain players like I need to hear this person. So,
which is fine, but also we did that. There was no. Well, all right, fine. Jeez.
Yeah.
It was all the. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So that's good. Everyone could be reminded of the social contract.
And I think because even the people that were new, we knew people who knew other people. Yeah. We had a pretty good table social contract going on.
Yeah. I mean, well, the thing is, no matter whether you're the GM or the player, I think the first thing when you're doing new players with a large table, and especially a large table with new players, you really have to make sure you have to sort of police the group in the sense that you want to draw out the quiet people, and you want to sort of dampen down the loud people a little bit. I mean, not saying like enforce active limits, but kind of a soft power kind of thing. Just
suggestions.
Suggestions, and just like I mean, that was one thing I was really concerned with, making sure everyone would have a chance to make decisions and like see what happens, and like not just only pay attention to the people that were like trying to get. Because
I have been in games where the loud players just completely drowned out all the others.
Yeah.
And then it becomes, all right, you basically have two players playing.
Yeah. And because no matter who you are at the table, if you're an experienced player, GM, or whatever, and there's new people at the table, you want to make sure they have a good time so that they can understand why you like this hobby so much and why it's so fun.
Right. Why we should come back after the game I was in seemed like to be a disaster.
Right. And if the thing is, the quiet people really, I mean, a lot of them don't want to make a scene, or they don't want to be...
Or cause a fuss.
Right, so they're not going to tell you that they're having a bad time. So it's upon you to help everyone have a good time.
As GM, it is on you for that.
No, even as a player. I think everyone has a responsibility.
We all have our responsibilities. I think the GM has a very important one.
Right, but the GM can't do it alone, and everyone needs to like that's one thing... I know a while ago, Caleb mentioned that something about when I play a game, I can kind of sink back and let other people have their roles. I mean, for me, and that's something I noticed for myself. Like, for me, it's more like I really want to make sure everyone has a good, sort of harmonious thing, And I think it has, I mean, we can get into psychology and blah, blah, blah. And I think it also has to do with just the way I was raised. I was growing up. I'm the little brother the smallest of my family. So like my survival strategy was like accommodating other people. Like, hey, let's all get along. Yeah. Whereas like most of the other people in the RPPR group are like single children.
Me.
Yeah. So you're just like, I'm here. I'm awesome. Why aren't you?
Well, okay, for 4 years I was the little stepchild.
Yeah. For 4 years.
For 4 years.
Not for
Ever.
Yes.
No, but I think it right. Like also, like I found myself, if there's like last night, I found myself like, all right, if I'm gonna go do something if I know something I have to do, I'll see if like, hey, like you want to help, like I need your assistance on this. Would you help me out?
Yes. Very good. That's the kind of thing. Like, get people in other scenes. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was also with like Fiasco. Like, we were trying to suggest to each other, I think, too.
Yeah.
Like, hey, how about have a scene with the other person too?
But yeah, that's I did that particularly,
and it was really good. I mean, I think that really helped.
And you notice like if one of the experienced players who's in the group, so if you're the new guy and one of the guys that is in the group says like, hey, you want to come with me on this adventure?
Yeah.
They're like, it's like, oh yeah, like it's kind of like, oh, I'm part of this now.
Yeah, exactly. You got to have to give them sort of ownership in it, and
I think I'll give them credit. The players that were there, I think they did. I think they really got into the groove of it.
Oh no, they were pros. I mean, like they
were bosses.
Everyone performed very well. There was one exception, which I will name in this case, which was Aaron.
Yeah,
because Aaron was Aaron.
And we don't say this like a bad thing.
I'm sure you guys will list it off, but he charged off on his own, like just in the open. Mm-hmm. So we'll go back to like you mentioned earlier, the beginning, like how I started the game. Mm-hmm. So you wanted to talk?
Yeah, I'll say that basically it was we did there was no real intro, mm-hmm. to our group. Like we didn't have a chance to in game introduce ourselves. Mm-hmm. We were literally a group of strangers who may have heard of each other because it's a very small, close knit community. Very few people are related, if not by marriage, then direct blood. Right. But we were unfamiliar with each other, and we were all brought to this lodge in the middle of the woods for a meeting with this guy, and that's literally like and. You're in this lodge right now. You're waiting for him to show up, and it's just you guys alone in this place you've never been to.
Yeah.
And I think that was good because in the situation of like 6 strangers, mm-hmm. ostensibly in one place, we were compelled to, in character, introduce ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think that really helped. I think that really facilitated things along.
I mean, that's the thing a lot of GMs don't get. I think my strategy is to start as late as possible in a scene. Mm-hmm. Something I learned when I studied script writing. But I mean, the thing is, in game design, in tabletop games, if you start a scenario, if you want to make a scenario about like it's a dungeon crawl, and you're mm-hmm. like, all right, so the traditional structure for a dungeon crawl story is that they start in the tavern, they get the quest, and they decide to go to the dungeon.
Yeah, they go to the tavern where the guy that knows where the amulet of Yendor is.
Well, they start so I'll start the thing in the tavern and blah 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 blah, and then they'll go to the dungeon. So, but the thing is, that's not the adventure you think you're running. You're not running a dungeon crawl adventure at this point. You're running a tavern adventure because the adventure starts when the players get to make their first decision. And so they decide to go on the dungeon crawl. You don't know they're going to make that decision. So
and you have to be careful because if that's where you've decided to act, that's where the dungeon's where you're going to allow them to first make their first decision.
Yeah.
But you start them in the tavern, then what you've basically done is you started things off with a cutscene that the players have no control over.
Well, you can either railroad them, or if you give them actual agency,
they're going to do stuff.
There's always that chance that they decide to stay in the tavern, or they burn it down. They have to run away from the guards, and then they wind up on a boat. And so now you're on a boat, and you're like,
going away from where you wanted them to.
Yeah. So you're like, what the fuck? So if you wanted to run a dungeon crawl adventure, have them start in front of the dungeon and be like, you need to go in this dungeon, otherwise you're not going to have any money to buy food or whatever.
Or the town will be destroyed, whatever.
Yeah. So for me, for this story, I wanted them there, and then I did start them in the middle of an action scene because it opens with them like waiting for this guy, and then they hear gunshots in the wood, and then they eventually see the guy that they're waiting for being chased or being shot at, and he's carrying an object.
Because as a player, I've noticed like if you do that, you're suddenly much more invested in the game at hand.
Yeah.
If you start in like immediately, whoa, shit, something's happening.
Yeah. And
I've been in games where the GMs felt it necessary to do all the intro stuff.
Yeah.
And at that point, I've started like, I'm kind of sensing this isn't important.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. Phone.
Yeah. No, you want to make them choice, especially with a large group, because with a large group with 6 players, everyone needs to be allowed, or everyone has to have like the ability to do shit, like, which means they need time from you as the GM. So you have to divide your time between 6 players, and so you just have to go. I mean, like what I was doing the entire game was kind of doing it almost like it was combat the entire game. Like, what do you do? Okay, make a roll. What do you do? Make a roll. What do you do? Make a roll. And
you were doing it too, and it's the same thing I've done before too. That I've actually sometimes have some problems still.
Yeah.
You got to it's pretty much you got to keep it going.
Yeah.
Because no player likes to wait a really long time before they can get back into it.
No, of course, who would? I mean, you're there to play, not to watch, or listen. So
unless it was the dog punching incident, I think everyone enjoyed watching that.
That's kind of a unique set of circumstances.
But it was beautiful.
It was beautiful in a train wreck kind of way. So,
but very slow motion. Michael Bay just.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I started letting people make their choices. And so they respond to this action scene, and like some players are like thinking about barricading the place. Other people are looking for weapons because it's a lodge in a rural American setting. There's probably guns in the house, and
I'd also like to take this opportunity to extol one of my favorite things about the Call of Cthulhu system is the idea roll.
Yes,
that is a very useful tool, especially for new players. If they're not quite sure what to do, and you can see that happening, and you can just go, okay, give me an idea roll.
Yeah.
And make it like that way. Then you can give them a little push.
Yeah.
And normally, if it's good players, normally a little push is all they need.
Yeah, this is true. So I had the story in mind, the basic structure of it, but I didn't know where every single part of it fit there. So I kind of was like, oh, here's a good place to put this bit of the story, and then I started going there, and so pretty soon I had a lot of moving parts in the scenario.
And you have to keep track of all of them.
Yeah, you have to keep track of it. Sometimes you lose track. I did lose track. I remember losing track once. Like, what happened to this NBC? Oh, she went crazy. Oh, okay, yeah. All right. But I don't have to worry about her.
But that's what we're there for, to help you remember shit.
So, in terms of like for you as a player, what kind of other observations did you have about it in terms of like how the other new players reacted versus the old players versus the story? Would you have changed anything about how I set it up or how I ran it during?
Now, like I said, the beginning was perfect. I think you dropped us right off into the best possible place for that scenario. Like instantly, there's tension that we have to deal with. Yeah. And I'll say, with the 3 new players we had, they responded to tension beautifully. Yeah. They were all like, none of them really wanted to hang back. All of them had like, well, shit, I gotta deal with this guy situation. There's gunfire out there. Yeah. Like immediately, everyone in the cabin in this lodge immediately had an idea of what the best course of action would be to do. And also, like in real group of people, we didn't actually always coordinate with each other.
Yeah, there was duplication of effort,
which is going to happen anyway.
Yeah.
But I mean, like even some of okay, I immediately search the place for weapons.
Right.
Or I immediately start barricading.
Right.
Or I immediately start run towards the sound of gunfire.
Yes, we can guess who that was.
No names.
Yeah. Okay, so after the first scene, I mean, how did when we got into the meat of the story and plot bits were being revealed, what was your perception of the game as it was going on?
You gave us first of all you gave us multiple avenues of investigation we could do, and once again everyone had a different opinion, and we basically did split up. Yeah, but all of us immediately, I think they all realized what the avenues were and which one, and they immediately thought which ones they'd like to go for. I'd say the new players in this game didn't miss a beat at all.
I think, again, setting the game in the real world, even a historical one, I think really helped in the sense of players.
But everyone knows, we're in a farm. There's probably tractors and horses.
Right. And they also have an idea of like where to go to figure out information. They could talk to the other farmers. They could, go to town. They could talk to the guy in the jail cell or whatever. So they had ideas of like what was happening, which you wouldn't necessarily have like in a fantasy game or in a high concept.
Where you can go to the magical gem that actually connects to the elemental plane of fire to ask the fire elementals for something. And well, who wouldn't have thought of that?
Yeah. For me, I think one of the things is when I initially thought of this scenario, I thought there were certain complications I had in mind that actually never came up, because what I quickly realized after running like that first scene, that actually would have been gone, like that first opening scene probably would have been processed, like gone through in real time in like half the time it did if we had fewer players. If we had 2 or 3 players, that would have taken like half an hour at most to get through that opening scene. But with 6 players, like everyone's doing something,
and everyone's usually doing
time slows down,
and they're all doing
in-game,
and everyone's doing different things.
Right. So I have to give them time and like, all right, you find this out in this book, you find this thing in this here, you miss, you can't see the guy in the dark, you can't find out who's attacking you, blah 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 blah. So the more players you have, the more the in-game time slows down. I think that's a key. So you're not going to get as many scenes as you would like, or that you could with a smaller group. With 2 players, like this same scenario would turn into like kind of like a no security, kind of like a Wives of March sort of like very in-depth kind of grueling investigation and trying to figure out who's doing what. With 6 players, it turns into more of sort of a pulp action thing, because like people are just like riding around at night, they're trying to figure shit out, they're grabbing guns, that
Yeah, I think we finished the story in that night.
Yeah, I had it like it took in 6 hours in game between the start to the end, from dusk until midnight basically. And that was, and I figured originally it was going to be like over a day, like it would have taken most of this next day, simply because I wanted to, so I had to adjust my plans very quickly on the fly when I realized, oh shit, this is going to take a while. Like we're not going to get through as much as I thought I was. Right. So as a GM, you have to realize like, holy shit.
I played with some GMs before.
Yeah.
Who they've sketched out everything.
Yeah.
And I bet the problem is that when they get into the game and start running it, they still feel they have to hit everything on the list.
Yeah.
And a few con games I've played.
Oh yeah.
Very clearly, you can tell like. It's like there's 6 or 7 players at the table, but they still feel that, well, I can't go to here until I finish this thing, but it's 3 things down on the list.
Yeah.
And I've discovered a big problem is when GMs feel they have to hit everything.
Yeah. You have to adapt on, like, no matter how much you write. I don't care if you have a 50-page scenario, that meticulously researched, you've thought of all the angles or whatever, and like, we're doing the Russian scenario, dead man's hand or whatever, and like, oh well, let's go to the camp. Well, you have 2 hours to run this game. They're not gonna just have them start at the silo, because like, holy shit, that camp's gonna take an hour.
Yeah, and I've thought about logically, if you really are like Russian commandos on a time, you're not gonna stop at this camp,
right?
You're gonna.
I mean, I could see it either way, but like you could justify it either way. Like it's an open, like players have choice, they have agency, but like as a GM, you got to keep it. You got to understand how much you can get through as a practical matter. Were there any issues you saw coming up because the new players? Well, anything in terms of etiquette or being like, do you think that the new players had an adequate chance to shine? Or
I think everyone had a chance to do their own thing.
Yeah.
And I did something with one of the new players. I did our own thing. Others split up, but they got the chance to do their own thing. Like I like the two was it Sorry, I'm blanking on the names, but
Well, what character were they playing? What
the reporter and the
reporters
and the other
the
the other-
clergy?
the Melissa.
Yeah.
The two of them, they were actually by themselves. They were by themselves in a house with someone, and they both had to kind of concoct an on the spot dual person lie to trick this person.
Yeah, that was,
And they totally went with it.
yeah.
And I noticed and neither one of them was trying to be the hero.
Yeah.
They're all like, okay, like how can we work together to make sure we get this person to what we want?
Yeah, exactly. I thought that was an effective scene. Because that person was sort of an obstacle, not necessarily the bad guy, but someone who was also a problem. I mean, like someone that they had to like work around. So, I was pretty satisfied with that scene.
And Sean, I think, doing the revolutionary.
Yeah.
He got to do his thing. I think he got to do stuff he liked to. Playing a character that, if not handled properly, could really throw a wrench into the group dynamic by insisting on basically playing his character too hard.
Yeah. And I think, a lot of players, I mean, it's not specifically limited to new players. I mean,
no, but I'm saying, but in this game,
the thing is, this is what my character would do. Is not an excuse to be an asshat. But I mean, nobody did that in this particular game.
That's right. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, but that this is sort of an aside. I mean, Luke Crane mentioned this in one of the PAX panels, and he's like, "It's not. We've gone over this. Just because it's something your character would do doesn't mean you should do it at the table." Blah blah blah. And it's like, yeah, it's a good point. Like, you should never try to hide behind that as an excuse for really terrible behavior in a game, because nobody's going to buy it, and it's just a lame excuse. So anyway,
as an example of, I was in a there was a 3.0 D&D game, and one of the players was took the Frenzied Berserker prestige class, solely because he really wanted to just lose it and attack the players as well as the enemies.
I think was I in that game?
Yeah, I think you were.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
and I actually purchased a wand of polymorph other too.
Yeah.
Like when he did that, he's a turtle now. All right.
Yeah.
All right, let him work it out.
Yeah.
And I had to, because literally it seems like that's what he's looking forward to.
Yeah. And that's kind of a shitty thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there were issues with the game. I think there was some hive mind sort of metagaming a little bit in some of the players, because this player would figure it out and then would figure out a clue, but then the other player would use it
in another scene.
And there might have been a time where they could have exchanged information, but I don't.
It wasn't clear.
Yeah, and that part of it was for me, you really have to streamline your scenarios of dealing with the 6 players, because holy shit, there's so much going on. It adds up really quickly.
Pretty soon you're juggling 4 balls and a chainsaw in the air.
It gets. You need to keep that in mind when doing a scenario. So think of really simple situations, because with 6 players, that turns into a 3-hour game easily. I probably should have streamlined it even more, but I think
it went well.
I don't know, so for you, you're running a group with 6 players or
5 players.
Well,
5 or 6. Hypothetically 6 players.
6 players. What do you do when you're running that game? What considerations? How do you notice any difference from when you run for a large group?
I do. I still
talk about what I've been doing. But
I still outline everything I think I need to outline. I do, everything. Where everything's going to lead. But then at that point, I kind of just turn it over to the players.
Okay.
And I go with what they want to do.
Okay.
I'm a firm believer in it's like, all right, what do you do?
Yeah.
And I think especially with that many players, you've got to. It's like, all right, sometimes you really have to do more as a GM. All right, what do you guys do?
Okay. But in terms of in a game, do you notice noticeable differences between how much gets done in terms of scenes? How many so basically the game we had the opening scene, we had maybe 2 middle investigation scenes, and then there were 2 final scenes basically. So there's only 4 or 5 scenes basically in the entire 3-hour game. So for Hex Hollow, whereas with a 2-player game, I could have gone through at least 6, probably 8, 6 to 8 in 3 hours. depending, because like, oh, I go to library and investigate for 4 hours. All right, that's a scene, you know, and then like go move
Right.
on.
Well, basically, you know, like I said, the fewer players you have, the more attention you can focus on individual players.
Yeah,
And actually, it's not just that; it's also, and the more you have to,
yeah,
you know, because if you got a lot of stuff to cover and like only 2 players to do it,
yeah.
it's gonna have to be, you know, like, well, this, like, well, shit, like this thing I planned for more than, like this player is gonna have to take care of a lot more of this stuff.
Right. I mean, I actually had a good example. Like, I've done one playtest for Ruin so far, and that was just with Caleb and Aaron. And they split up almost immediately. They just, like protons and electrons, they just repel each other. And I'm sure that science people, please don't comment on that. I know that I don't.
Magnets.
Yeah, how do they work? But so it was, at times, it was like I was running 2 one-player games. Like, Caleb was off doing this other thing, Aaron was doing this other thing, and it's just like totally different for both of them until I managed to kind of shoehorn them back in there because I'm a horrible monster who denies players agency. So in some ways, but so I was covering a lot more ground of the story. So everything I outlined, I actually hit in that thing, because like I just had to keep throwing new scenes at them because they would go through, because also with like small groups, you can't throw a dozen cultists at them and expect them, or 5 giant monsters or whatever. You kind of have to scale down the combat and the challenges if you want them to actually fucking not die. Not assuming really bad choices. If they make a really bad choice, they make a really bad choice.
They run off into the woods with no weapons, yeah.
Yeah. Who are we talking about? No names.
The man with no name.
Yeah. No award if you guess in the comments. Because we're probably going to mention that later on anyway. So, in terms of new players, depending on the system, you need to be ready to explain that. You need to know the rules of any game you're actually running for new players. It's like teaching. You have to know that shit better than just an average person. Like, you need, like, Call of Cthulhu rules is one of the few systems I'm super comfortable with, and I could run.
I'm the same way.
Yeah, but like, I would not run, say, Promethean or Dark Heresy or
fucking the one you mentioned earlier. The
Phoenix Command?
No, the martial arts one.
Martial arts?
White Wolf mystical martial arts.
Exalted.
Shit. Exalted. Thank you. I could not get that word out of it. But yeah, Exalted. You has so are there special moves? Like, well, they're covered in these 70 pages of the book.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, if you're an Exalted guru, then yes, you can run the game for new players. Because the thing is, you have to be able to explain that book, explain those rules without having to look shit up. Because nothing kills a big game and I define a big game with lots of players
like that,
than looking shit up.
Like that Star Wars game I played at Gen Con, where the poor GM lady had we would suggest something like that wasn't combat. Like I think Aaron. Really good idea. Like, all right, I'm just going to go actually see if I can hack this droid since they're all connected and see if I can get them to shut down. And she's like, 10 minutes of flipping through the book.
That's basically the Nadar. That is the critical failure. If you do that, you're just, oh my god, your game is just crashed. It's like in DDR when you start missing everything and it's like terrible. You're just like, why am I even doing this? So that's what you really, really want to avoid. And the only way to, so you need to, only run systems that you are masters of.
If it's new players.
Yeah, if it's new players. And make sure it's at least a system you're pretty decent with if you're running for a big group, even if they're all experienced players. Because, like, again, you need to be able to know the basic procedures just without having to consult things.
Because once again, I've been a player in a game where it is kind of uncomfortable when you realize the GM really doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, not just like, or do you mean like not just game mechanics, but just like storytelling?
Yeah.
Oh man,
you realize, and you don't want to say anything. It's particularly a con game because it's there's still like this social contract going around the table, but you're like, you can see there's like kind of glances around the table, worried looks.
Yeah. Yeah, that is. Fortunately, I never. I actually should start playing con games. You know?
And in fact, if you, I don't know if you noticed,
I'm always running
because you
shit.
can always tell, like when the GM's head is buried in the book.
Yeah.
If he would only look up, he would actually see the
Yeah.
you know, the like we're like everyone, all the players are making eye contact, doing the kind of your eyes get slightly wider as you're doing the. Oh boy.
Yeah. And there are times I've had to do that in a panic, but I almost, very seldom, except with newer systems, or if I'm reading flavor text from an adventure, which I try to get through. And so that's why I almost never run canned adventures at cons anymore, because, oh God, what happens if they do this? I don't know. Flip, 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 flip.
Yeah, I'm much more comfortable with the scenarios that I've designed or run.
Yeah.
Because I know what's next.
Yeah, exactly. So
and I can pretend.
Yeah. So those are some things, especially running big games, you just have to bring your own game up as the GM. Sometimes if you have good players, especially ones who are like Bill and have good rules mastery, they can help guide you through shit. Then
don't be afraid to ask players for help.
Yeah. Yeah, they're here to have a good time.
It's a group collaboration.
Yeah. Another thing is, GM, if you're running with a large group, fucking kill players.
Oh yeah,
player characters, not players.
Really, I didn't think you were like carry a silence 45 under the table, and if you see one getting on their phone, cap them.
Yeah. Especially if it makes sense for the game setting, like if it's a very violent game, D&D or Call of Cthulhu or Eclipse.
If it's My Little Pony, you might want to hold off on that.
I don't think they have an RPG.
They probably do.
An unofficial fan one, I'm sure, but if you blink, I don't even care if you
don't even want to know, do you?
I zero.
Wasn't like Fallout in My Little Pony?
There's everything in My Little Pony. It's their fandom.
It's ubiquitous.
Weird.
It's out there.
I'm sorry, bronies. I don't get
Ross
it.
doesn't get it.
Do you get it?
I do not.
All right. So we don't get it.
No, we don't get it.
No one gets it except them.
Except them.
All right. Moving on.
I don't want to hear about it.
We kind of lingered on this a little too long. So,
or was it appropriate? Anyway,
what were we talking about? You want to be able to kill characters off. Especially if you basically run combat in the open and let the dice fall where they may. Make combats a little more challenging than you would.
Some GMs are reluctant to really put players in harm's way.
But if you have 6 players, one guy dies, just make sure they have a chance to make a new character and join back in, so they can join in at least in the last act. They're like, oh yeah, you can be the deputy who shows up at the end and be like, hey guys, what's going on?
Emily, trust me, and if you're a GM who's reluctant to kill players, trust me, your first TPK is a truly wonderful experience.
Yeah.
In fact, and your players will be the same way.
As long as they're not as
long as it legitimately happened and you didn't.
Well, if it's a one shot or a con game, usually they're happy. But campaigns,
the one time I did it, running my Bell Island game.
Yeah,
players cheered afterwards when everyone died.
Yeah, especially with Call of Cthulhu, expectations matter. Don't be afraid to kill them. Don't be afraid to take them out of the action, because you just got you kill a player, you give everyone else more screen time.
And honestly, I said that you don't have time to linger. You've got to go. Yeah, go.
Basically for Call of Cthulhu, the game I ran, it was basically I was running combat for most of the night. What do you do? Make a roll. So
basically you're just going around the table.
Yeah, it's very quickly, and that's the kind of thing you have to do. So.
Because speaking of experience, usually the phones come out when you're sitting there with nothing to do.
Yeah, and that will happen regardless, to a certain extent.
Don't take it personally.
Yeah, but if it gets a little excessive, then So
now, if they start exchanging videos, I think you might realize maybe you've lingered too long.
Yeah, definitely. So I think that kind of covers it. With new players, you treat them with respect, make sure they get a chance to be participating, bring them out if they're kind of.
Everyone needs a moment to shine.
Yeah, and know the rules, know the game.
Yeah. I also say, and know what's too big.
Yeah.
No, actually, I say if you're
never go more than 6
players. And if you're GMing, know your limits.
Yeah. I've done games for 8 players or more, but those are literally I'm just running combat, and I usually have it player versus player at that point.
And I've never run a game with a group that big, but I've been in a game, and it is the GM. I've noticed the GM either basically, like you said, runs it like it's constant combat,
Yeah.
or very quickly burns out.
Yeah. And it's hard, but it can be really fun. So, at that point, if you're getting more than 6 players, you really should think of a way of dividing it up into 2 groups with 2 GMs and figuring out some sort of linked campaign thing, which would be really cool to do. Now that we have a larger group, we might do something like that. But that is a topic for a future discussion. We should actually do it first before we actually do that. So.
Fun fact, Kevin Sembieta says he's most comfortable with a group of 8 players or more.
So you should not run a group with 8 or more players.
In the Riffs GM guide,
yes,
he says this.
And you were bringing this up.
I brought that up.
He is the goofus. You, the listener, should be the gallant.
Yes.
So, next up, we have a letter from Tom.
We do?
We also have shoutouts and anecdotes. I will talk a little bit about the D&D next games I have been playing.
As I wait with bated breath.
And then we already talked about Hex Hollow, but I also talk about the playtest of you could talk about the Fiasco stuff.
Indeed.
Happened. So,
we got more shit coming up. Well, I just got back from a very amazing trip. I explored the cities of Boston and New York and basked in the culture and sights that both cities had to offer. I was reminded of the myriad of languages and cultures those cities had to offer, as well as the centuries of history the cities had. I walked streets that were hundreds of years old and strolled past pubs and buildings that were around before America even existed. I took it all in, getting my Midwest mind some actual culture, and truly felt enriched by it. At least I would have if my gamer mind hadn't interfered. As it was, as I stood at the top of the Empire State Building looking out onto Manhattan Island and the entire tri-state area, all I could think about was that this spot would make an excellent place for a massive fight in an RPG. Throughout the trip, as I explored those 2 historical cities, I was constantly imagining places that a group of PCs could have a memorable fight with armed mooks. As I walked the Freedom Trail, strolling through the streets that saw the start of the American Revolution, I imagined snipers and cyber ninjas hiding among the rooftops and pub windows, hoping to ambush a group of PCs. I walked the decks of the USS Constitution and imagined pirates firing steampunk cannons across the deck. I sat in an Irish pub next to Boston Commons and thought of cultists hiding in the bar, looking to assassinate the intrepid investigators. It didn't get any better in New York. I stood atop the Empire State Building and saw flying robot assassins doing battle in the skies. I walked the exhibits at the Metropolitan Museum of Art and thought of investigators looking through the Egyptian section for an artifact of Nyarlathotep hidden in a stone sarcophagus. I stood on Liberty Island and saw a giant kaiju coming ashore and knocking the statue right off the pedestal. I did this the entire trip. No matter where I went or what I saw, I had a heads-up display overlaying everything with RPG elements. It was as if I had a role-playing filter fitted over my eyes, and I have to say, it was fucking awesome. After 6 days in Boston and New York, my head is filled with glorious scenarios of fights and battles in historical locations. While some may stand in the sheep meadow in Central Park and have inspiration to paint a landscape, I imagine columns of cyber tanks fighting a group of inexperienced superheroes, flinging air conditioning vents like the vengeful hammer of a god. It is just another form of inspiring art, and I felt truly energized from it. So the next time you find yourself in a historical place and find images of orcs, dragons, and ninjas filling your head, just go with it. It's better than any photograph or souvenir.
So Tom, I thought that was a great letter.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Because I had a similar experience when.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Did you have it in Boston when you were at PAX?
No, I was pretty much like work.
That was work.
Yeah, I mean, there was fun parts.
Yes.
I did have an RPPR meetup, so I do want to give a big mention to Jin and the other RPPR fan. And Jin, who had her craft Etsy store. She was selling collectibles like dice, jewelry, and stuff like that. And then Ben from Tiny Kingdoms game, I'm gonna mess that up. Tiny Mob game. I will put links to your stuff in the show notes. So we had RPPR meeting up there. So thank you to everybody who made that. You guys rock, especially Ian and Violet.
Yeah, gotta love Ian and Violet. Awesome.
Yes, with the art.
I hung out with them when I was in Boston. Boom.
We went to Wagama Mama. They showed me that with great Japanese noodle place. Also, a highlight of PAX, aside from just being there, like, oh,
what'd you do?
I went to a Tim Schafer video game themed burlesque show by D20 Burlesque, where they did burlesque strip teases based on his games, like Grim Fandango, Brutal Legend, the game Stacking, which is the Matryoshka dolls, the Russian nesting dolls. So like she takes off the layers, and then they had one of the burlesque strippers put on a beard and a hoodie, and she was dressed up as Tim Schafer. So sexy Tim Schafer taking everything off, and then
it was like
making it rain.
Like
the other
sexy Tim Schafer
was actually there. I saw he was in the front row. And
was he bemused?
He was bemused, and those other strippers were making it rain dollar bills as she was stripping it off. It was amazing. Oh, also a male stripper doing a thing for Psychonauts. The milkman level is like, oh, they're bugging me. Oh no, my jacket has a bug. I need to take it off. Oh, my shooter's bugged too. So that was funny. So it was very funny. That was very. It was.
But where else did you go?
Anyways, I actually do want to mention my trip to China because I actually didn't.
Do you
Caleb
really?
And you were like shouted me down, so I actually didn't talk about it in the last episode. So this time I will talk about it
because it's just me.
Yeah, because it's just you. And so I went to China for a month, and I was staying mostly in Guangzhou, which is southwestern China, about southern China, 2 hours away from Hong Kong by train. And I got to see quite a bit of Asia. Thanks to cheap air flights from Guangzhou to other parts of Asia. Cambodia, I went to see Angkor Wat.
Ooh,
the ruins.
Nice.
Yes, and that was very much like RPG stuff because I felt like I was in a fucking old school RPG.
Like a Savage Worlds type thing?
No, like a video, like Wizardry.
Oh, yeah,
the old Wizardry games or Eye of the Beholder where you're like
I actually own Wizardry 8.
Yeah, exactly. So it was like that because you walk through these ruins and they're actually like that and you're like, holy shit, I feel like I'm in a video game.
Like, what monster is around the corner?
Yeah, and also this would be great for tabletop role-playing games too because like, holy shit, there's all these awesome ruins with these incredible carvings. And is that a dinosaur carved in there? Wow, that's crazy. And so Angkor Wat was awesome. Plus also the culture there and the people there.
The food you refused to try.
There actually wasn't very much food. I didn't.
There was one actually.
Oh, there was. Yeah.
Well, that one even your brother refused.
Yeah. Well, we went to the Philippines too, as well, to a small little place called Anilao to do some diving. It's just like very, very small. There's not much to do other than dive. The diving there was amazing, coral reefs and all that. But they have what they call balut, which is basically a chicken abortion in an egg. That is fermented. They just bury it, let it rot, and then like they open it up, and it's just
green.
I don't know. I didn't try it. I was like, no.
I think it's when you told me that your brother's like, no, like so you wouldn't eat this for $20? Like, are you out of your mind? No,
yeah, he wouldn't do it for unless it was like $500. I'm like, I'm cheap. I would have done it for 20, but they didn't offer me any money to eat it, so I didn't eat.
Way to have self-respect there, Ross.
Yeah. So great diving in the Philippines.
Trust me. It'd have to be 7 figures for me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. The life of a freelancer, yay. Then back to Guangzhou. We did go to Hong Kong for a weekend, which was, of course, amazing and pretty neat.
Nice.
Great food there. Hong Kong style French toast is amazing. It is, oh my God, it is so good. It is like with condensed milk. It is just like, holy shit. It is the food of the gods. So anyway.
Delicious, was it?
Yes. But then we also went to Chengdu, which is a central China, the Sichuan province. Mm-hmm. And had some Sichuan food, which is incredibly spicy. That's where I played. I ran that game July Park, which is on the AP site. People like it. Hey, Alex and the other gamers from
you guys rock.
Yes. But there's another gaming idea I had there, the Global Center, which is the world's largest building. It is 18 million square feet, and is
that's bigger than the Pentagon, by the way.
It is. Yeah, it is ginormous. They have a water park. They have like 4 5-star hotels in it. They have a movie theater, an ice rink.
So they have 4 numbers of 5-star hotels.
Yes.
Okay, so not 4 5-star hotels.
4 hotels, each 5 stars.
Okay,
So
that's a lot of numbers.
Yeah, plus just a shitload of stores. And we went there, and it was like, oh, the water park was crazy. We shouldn't have gone in February. It was a bit cool. They don't have great heating there. It's in central China, so they're like, we just need AC. We don't need the heating. Where it's warm here most of the time.
Right.
It's only cold a couple of weeks of the year. The airports are terrible about that. Like, they don't have heating also. It's like 50 degrees outside. It's 50 degrees inside. So, because they just
Suffer, Peyton.
pretty much. But I made it back. Great stuff. Lots of ideas. I have photos up on the RPPR Tumblr, rppr-podcast.tumblr.com. I'll put a link in the show notes.
I've been posting pictures of my trip.
Yes, on the Facebook. You should post it to the RPPR Facebook group.
Sure. Yeah.
So people can see that. So anyways, I just want to mention that. So I totally know where you're coming from because I was also like, hey, this would be great for a game. Oh, one thing in Hong Kong, I got to... This is off my bucket list. This is like, holy shit, I actually got to do this. I went to the site where Kowloon Walled City was. It's a park now, but they have a little, like, memorial, like, here's a little exhibit about Kowloon Walled City. If you don't know what Kowloon Walled City is, get out. No, it was like 1 square acre, 33,000 people living inside that. It was the densest place on the planet. It was sort of a artifact. Like, there was no rule of law there. The British kind of just like, we don't own that. And so it became this incredibly, like, complex, self-governing community where they figured out how to get lights and electricity. They had their own unlicensed, like, factory or workshops.
Sure.
And, of course, lots of opium dens and triads. And it's fascinating from many points of view. There's a great documentary about it. That the Wall Street Journal actually just put out. It's like a 15-minute sort of summary about it. And they have a great website where you can like tour sort of a map of it, of what it was like. It was torn down in 1997, but it's been referenced in everything from movies to novels to video games. Call of Duty Black Ops 1 actually has the whole level set in Kowloon Walled City in the 1960s, and I got to go there. I got to go to the place where it was. I got to see
Nice.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
We're totally going to use that in Ruin Guys,
I mean,
by the way.
and I totally got to do the Ghostbusters thing in New York.
Oh, very cool, very cool.
Saw the firehouse.
Another bucket list thing.
Yep, and the Gozer Tower, otherwise known as 55 Central Park West.
Okay.
With and apparently, I think the penthouse of that place is actually available now.
Okay.
For the low price of $36 million.
There's a whole website on talking about places in New York that are more expensive than castles in Europe. Mm-hmm. That would be one of them. Mm-hmm. That's really expensive.
Well, it's like a 6-bedroom condo in Manhattan. So
yeah, it's totes expensive. Anyway, we should get to the shout-outs.
We should.
All right. First off, I would like to mention Showa, a graphic novel manga that I picked up. Showa, 1926 to 1939. It's a autobiographical history of Japan in there. It's from a famous, I can't remember the guy's name, manga artist who grew up in the 1920s, in 30s in Japan and became... so he's talking about the history of Japan becoming a major power and like life at home versus life abroad, and sort of mixing the historical commentary with what it was like growing up being a poor person in Japan in that era. So it's really fascinating. It's like 500 pages too, but it's a fairly quick read because it's a manga. Lots of pictures. So that's really cool. But anyways, Tom, you wanted.
Yep, I got a couple of stand-up acts. You know me, and I love myself some comedy.
Yeah.
First one I'm going to mention is one of my favorites. Patton Oswalt has a new album out.
Yeah.
Called Comedy Plus Tragedy Equals Time.
Yeah.
And I'll just say, I think it's the calmest album he's done to date. But it's also, once again, it's Patton Oswalt. It's just awesome.
Yeah.
Every word he says is just amazing.
Okay. Very good. Speaking of things that are awesome, I would like to mention Night Vale Live.
Ooh, yes.
Night Vale Live. This is both went up.
We did?
There was a showing in St. Louis last month, and so Caleb, Tom, and I went up there, and it's hilarious. It was the episode Librarians.
Yeah.
They will eventually make that available as a paid download. They've already made the first episode like that, Condos,
yeah.
which is available, which we listened to on the way up there.
And let me tell you, Cecil Baldwin got like a 5-minute standing ovation when he set foot on stage.
Yeah, he got it. He very warm audience. It wasn't totally sold out, but it was a weekday in St. Louis, so like not the strongest.
But people love Cecil Baldwin.
Yeah, there were people cosplaying there, including somebody with a glow cloud umbrella, which I thought was ingenious.
Yeah.
So
there's a guy, the tan jacket, and
man in the tan jacket. It was great stuff. Well worth listening to a guy talk on stage for an hour and a half. There was music too, so
yeah, the act before it.
Yeah, and interspersed as the weather. So, she was very good. I can't remember her name, but it's on their website. So, very very good. So you had another comment?
Yep, and the other one is British comedian Greg Davies. I love the name of the album alone. It's Firing Cheese Balls at a Dog. It's on Netflix right now. I highly recommend you check it out. Just because I really like it, because he was also originally an English teacher, English and drama teacher, and so many people in RPPR were teachers or were studying to be teachers.
Yeah, we're like overeducated, underambitious academic nerds.
Pretty much. Yeah, but that's what really kind of drew me to it.
Yeah, very good, very good. I would like to mention something. This is a Kickstarter I backed. The Kickstarter itself is already completed, but you can pre-order. It's a video game called Darkest Dungeon. I met the developers at PAX
I saw the
East.
flyer on the table.
Yes, and I actually played the demo of their game, and it's a Lovecraftian themed turn-based RPG where the mental health of your characters is just as important as their physical health. So characters can become paranoid, they become fearful, or they become bolstered because they're religious fanatics. There's plague doctors. It's just, and the art is very like stylized. It reminds me a little of Mike Mignola.
Nothing wrong with that.
Early Hellboy art. Yeah, exactly. And I cannot wait to play it. I will probably try to arrange an interview with them for Unspeakable to talk about Lovecraftian and gaming. Lovecraft and gaming. So that's something to look for. Darkest Dungeon. Definitely worth checking out if you're a video game fan and like Lovecraft.
And you are. You are.
So did you want to talk about the raid too, or should I?
How about we both talk about the raid
why don't you
too?
start there?
Because, well, let me put it this way. I've often watched movies with Mr. Payton here.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't call him judgmental, but it's very... I don't see excitement from him very often. I mean, I'll get like, most of the time it's like, if he's liking something, it's kind of like, he's examining it like, yes, mate, that's pretty good. I approve of this. Watching the Raid 2 with him, and I did miss some of it. I had to watch it again because I constantly found myself looking at him. This was like Ross Payton excited and energized in a movie. Like, the first time I ever saw it was from the movie Ghost Ship, when the wire went across.
I was more innocent back then.
He was.
I wasn't as.
But this was recent, like a few weeks ago.
It's actually that opening scene in Ghost Ship, and after that it was a down.
But in Raid 2, it was like the whole movie was like that.
Yeah.
Just the fight scenes are. Even I found myself. I like to think I'm pretty jaded.
Yeah.
Like I'm watching this like, oh god, this is so fucking awesome.
Holy shit. So yeah, if you've seen The Raid Redemption, this is a sequel to that. Takes place pretty much immediately
after. I think it's like 2 hours after.
2 hours. And it's just there's enough action for, like, as Caleb put it, like enough action for 4 or 5 very full action films. It's very efficient. Way they make it sort of more like The Wire. It's a very convoluted sort of tale of betrayal and crime lords and
ambition.
Going undercover. Yeah, ambition, Shakespearean, but they brilliantly mix in all these ridiculous set piece action scenes.
It's like rated R violent martial art fighting.
Oh yeah, no, it's. I think the only reason why it's not a major hit in America is because it's subtitled. It's just like, they're Asians and they're not speaking English.
Malaysian, I think it's.
Yeah, I said Asian.
Yeah,
that's part of.
Yes, I thank you, Ross.
Yeah, and I think they're Indonesian.
Yeah, the director is Welsh.
Yes, but I believe they're Indonesian. They're practicing the local form Salat, SILAT. which apparently involves brutalizing your enemy's head with your knee and elbow.
Or the pavement, or shelves.
Yeah, that's a lot of that.
I mean, I'll just put this: the fight in the prison yard.
Yeah.
That was when I knew like exactly what the hell I was getting into. Yeah.
And what's like, I've read some commentary about it, and it really works on a number of levels because it's not just a shallow, stupid. There's actually like meaning and context within it, because like as they're starting this fight, like everybody's like they're wearing clean uniforms, and everything, but then the guards come in as they start fighting this muddy, rainy prison yard, and the mud gets on everybody. You can't tell who's who anymore, and it's just like everyone's getting dirty and corrupted. It reveals the character's own like descent into darkness as he's trying to be this upright, moral person, but to protect his family, he just goes darker and darker.
And I will say, best car chase I've ever seen in a movie.
That car chase.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so anyways, you just need to see the rating.
You need to see it immediately.
Yeah, if you can. If it's playing, it's...
And we're not getting paid to say this. This is an unsolicited...
It's pretty much like, I'll do this and this and this, and you've got like your next 20 action games. I mean, like, damn. So, two more. One is a anthology of stories, which I've started reading. I haven't finished yet, called Sword in the Mythos. It's a Conan... style sword and sorcery stories, all featuring Lovecraftian Cthulhu mythos type stuff. So I got a review copy of it. It's coming out in May, but I will read it and then I will review it for the podcast. I just want to mention that I got the copy, and I've read the first story. It's very good. So I'm looking forward to reading the rest of it.
And maybe when you're done, I'll read it too.
I can send you an ebook copy right now.
All right.
I'll do it right now.
And then we'll both review it.
Very good. Finally, I also want to mention one game that I have been playing that has been... Well, I've been playing two games. One is Payday 2, because first-person shooter co-op games are my kryptonite. I cannot fucking stop playing that game because it's tactical gun porn and mask.
Yeah. Hey, fair enough. Mine is Skyrim.
Yeah. But I love shooting cops and being...
Whoa there,
virtually
Ross.
Cops. I mean, basically, we're like in Payday. The characters you play as are mutants. They can regenerate damage. They have ridiculous resilience to gunfire. They have superhuman abilities. They can shout someone back to life, basically, if you pick the right skills. They can mind control police. It's pretty ridiculous, but they're facing an army from the elemental plane of cops. Like, there's just literally... There's always more cops.
I've seen some Let's Plays of that, and it does seem like, and also the cops are like, sir, are we considering collateral damage? Fuck no, do it.
Yeah. No, they're literally levels I've killed hundreds of cops, like in one level, and just like 151 cops. And I was not even like the one who had killed the most cops. So...
that is the elemental plane of cops.
It is. They're just evil wizards are summoning endless legions of police clones. So that's fun. But the other game is Goat Simulator.
Oh, Jesus.
You simulate a goat.
It
is its own beast.
It is literally a beast.
Yeah, it is.
It's a goat beast.
It's very funny. It's very fun. Especially put it on the TV, have people take turns playing it, and yeah.
And then use mods and...
Yes, there will be mods.
What else needs to be said?
Very much. So, anyway, anecdotes. Do you want to get started with the fiasco?
I think we should.
All right. Why don't you?
It was what was the name of that scenario again?
It was Town and Gown.
Town and Gown.
Play set, I believe it.
Yes.
Playbook, whatever you call those.
We were playing. It's corruption at a college.
Yes.
And all I know is Ross and I were playing campus security. No, none of us were students. We were all faculty. Well, staff or faculty.
Right.
And Bill, I think Dan was playing I'm not familiar with
Dean of Economics.
Dean of Economics, that was it. And Sean was playing one of the chief administrators.
He was playing the lawyer, the counsel.
And Bill
was the comptroller, and yeah. So what part of that game really stands out for the anecdote?
Well, there's so many moments that stand out.
Yeah, I mean, the whole game is very convoluted, so we can't really just explain the whole thing. But, like, what was your favorite scene, I guess? Was it the monologue driving the nitroglycerin to the site, or was it...
I thought it was pretty damn good.
All right, so what was it? What about that? Well, tell the lizard.
Well, I was like playing. I'm sorry, neophyte Marxist revolutionary.
Yeah.
Emphasis I said on neophyte. I'm not very good at it.
Yeah, you're basically playing it as like a drug dealer / like lunatic survivalist.
Or as I was kind of going for Hunter S. Thompson as a violent revolutionary.
Yeah, or just the armed thug who liked drugs. Like you've just it wasn't even
I casually offered blow and
yeah.
But there was a scene where I'm driving this barrel, like a 50-gallon drum of nitroglycerin, to the records building where I'm going to plant it and then blow it up.
Yeah.
And of course, the thing was, I had been planning to do this.
Yeah.
But then there was the conspiracy from the other players gave me, I have an actual reason to do this now instead of just a whimsy.
Yeah.
And so basically, my scene was I was trying to resolve it, so it was just me giving an internal monologue as I'm driving this van with a barrel of nitroglycerin in it, interspersed with dealing with people in my immediate sight. Like, this person's not in my way. Could you move along?
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of doing all but the I'm walking here.
All right.
That kind of thing.
I like that.
I really worked hard on it.
It was a thing of beauty.
It was.
So we might post that. I haven't decided yet.
You should post it, Ross.
Well, we got a lot in the queue right now. So, anyways, to give you, I've been playing D&D Next with Bill's running it. I'm playing a fighter. Sean and Ann and Melissa are in the game as well. And I have been recording it, but I don't think I'm going to post those because it's a playtest of D&D Nest. They're under an NDA, or Bill is, in order to get them playtest materials and blah, 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 blah. But I will mention we've been going along. It's been a basic kind of dungeon crawl thing, kind of humorous, a lot of banter between. Sean really takes to the banter. Melissa's been pretty good as a druid, and Anne's the quiet but deadly ranger. And we've been kind of usually we've just been sort of Bill's trying to figure out it's a new version of D&D, how dangerous the monsters are,
Sure.
What's too easy versus what's too hard. So it's been kind of easy for most of us, but then we get into this one room. There's a sleeping lizard type monster. I can't remember what it was called. And all around this cave wall, there are giant cave crickets. Like, each one's the size of a dog, but they're just kind of chilling out there. And so, like, we sneak by because we're afraid of the lizard monster. And we're like, all right, we don't want to have to deal with this fight. So we go on into the next room, we do our thing, and then we come back, and then somebody fails their stealth check. And then everything wakes up at once. And so we go into combat. And so the lizard monster's there. I'm rushing up because I'm playing the fighter. But then, like, I get critted off first hit. Like, I get tagged twice. Like, the thing is, there's like one lizard monster, but then there's 8 cave crickets. And the thing is, the cave cricket, Bill rolls like 3 natural 20s in the first round.
Nice.
On us as players.
Oh, sure.
So I go down, the wizard goes down, and they're just like, holy shit, what are we going to do? And Bill has to pull, we kill the lizard monster, and Bill just decides, I'm pulling the cave crickets back. I don't want to have a TPK where you're all eaten by cave crickets. And I'm kind of like, whatever. I think that'd be funny. But, like, the other players are like, oh my God. Because, again, they're new. This is the first time they've had a super dangerous combat. And I just kind of like the idea of cave crickets doing us in. And so that's become sort of a recurring thing. It's like, why can we train cave crickets to throw at the bad guys? So that's kind of the tenor of that game.
Yeah.
Basic kind of like quest to save the kingdom from an evil and that kind of stuff. And it's been very fun. Bill's very good GM, and he's been doing really good about puzzles too, like mixing in real world puzzles in order to represent puzzles within the game environment, like a mastermind puzzle to figure out these rooms. Then what kind of puzzle? Like cryptography, a little cipher to figure out something else. A very simple one, but they'll get more. Now we've done the sort of tutorial dungeon, so we'll start getting into more real shit. Will get more real. Whoa. Yeah. And then of course Caleb and Aaron.
Ruin.
This is the first playtest of the game, and Ruin involves architectural horror as a concept. Like that's the setting for the game. Just crazy extra dimensional ruins. Populated with horrors from beyond time and space. Silent Hill, House of Leaves, those are the kind of influences. But during the game, you can there's sort of like my new game system will be character generation during gameplay. So your skills are determined by what you choose to do in the game. So if you want to be a fighter, you have to actually go out and fight guys and make those kind of choices. If you want to be good at stealth, you have to actually start stealthing around and that kind of stuff. But the thing is, Caleb and Aaron just immediately split up and just go in immediately directions as they're trapped in an extra dimensional ruin and are, oh my god, crazy shit is happening. All I remember is that Caleb was like, God, Aaron, why are you doing? He's like, Caleb, you're doing the same thing. You immediately ran off on your own. You punched a cop and you went. So he, like, the one time Aaron's being kind of reasonable, and Caleb is like, just fuck it. I'm just going out and doing this, and I'm a baker, is his character. He named his character, named him Pumpernickel. So he was just a man of action. And so I just like that game because Caleb was being just like Aaron in that game. And they nearly died. I went mad.
Lovely.
But yes. So that playtest I'll probably post eventually. But we're definitely going to post Hex Hollow or The Long Lost Friend, the game we've been talking about most of the time. So that kind of wraps up.
I think it does.
So next episode will be episode 100.
Wow.
We got to do something special with that.
Yeah. We'll get drunk and belch into the microphone constantly.
Yeah, you listeners, that's the quality you want from RPPR.
Occasionally we'll say fuck.
Oh, ooh,
yeah.
Quality. What am I going to do?
Or Ross and I will just fight like a married couple.
That's pretty much every episode.
And, dude, if you could hear in the car when we're driving in the car together, yeah, that's what we do as well. Like, literally, there'll be a time there'll be like 10 minutes of silence, and they're also, your face is stupid.
It is. Your face is so stupid. How you doing?
I'm great.
All right. So
that's a taste.
Yes. Yeah.
Have we whet your appetite?
Yeah. All right. So this has been RPPR episode 99, Gaming with Full Table. This is Ross Payne.
And I'm Tom Church.
We'll see you guys next time.
Just Vidania.
It's a new day, and summer's here. It's time for us to hit the road and face our fears. In the car now, we'll make it somehow. Take a giant step toward dangers from below. Unfold the mystery from ancient history. We'll send the evil back to where it came. Around every turn, there's something new to learn. And every stop I think may be our last. We're on a road trip to save the world. So pack up your bags and hop in the car, 'cause we're going far. And don't you look back, the places you've been. Vampires and a blown out tire and a cult to the great old ones bent on death. From Sunnyvale to Candle Cove, better watch out if we're coming near your home.